Android 17 is a very interesting character in Dragon Ball. On the one hand, he's half responsible for the death of all the Z fighters in the future timeline, including my favorite character, Future Gohan, and has arguably the worst arc in Dragon Ball GT, but on the other hand, he literally saves the multiverse by making the selfless wish of wishing back all the universes that have been previously erased after winning the Tournament of Power. That being said, it's clear to see that Android 17 has some insane development throughout the series, starting out as a literal killing machine, then being the savior of life to multiple universes. And to celebrate that development, we created a list of every Android 17 outfit and ranked them, from Z tier being the most iconic of his fits to F tier being the worst and forgettable of his fits. Be sure to let us know your favorite Android 17 moment, and let's get into it. The first thing I gotta say is, no, I did not get in a fight. Before anybody comments that I'm not that cool, unfortunately, it's just eczema and my eye gets all swelled up because, you know, allergy season, you know, it gets pretty bad out here. But we're here for Android 17 fits. Let's start with the Dragon Ball Z outfit. This is the first fit that we see Android 17 in, and it's the one that he has probably the most screen time in. It's probably the one that you think of whenever you see Android 17 or you hear a mention of him. When you look at it, it's obviously his iconic look, but one of the things that I've always hated about this look is like the little leg warmers that he's got on down here. It just kind of makes the fit look really goofy. Also, his shoes look like bowling shoes, and it's really just kind of odd. I think we give a lot of excuses to Android 17 with this fit because he's Android 17, and nobody's really gonna check him in the series because he's Android 17, and up to that point, the Z fighters are no match for the androids, so nobody's really gonna say anything. And in terms of this tier list specifically, when we're talking about all the fits that are on this list and not the ones that are on the outside of this one definitely deserves to go up into Z tier because it's the one that we all think of, right? I said that earlier. We all think of this fit. There's not another one on here that deserves higher praise. Future 17. So this fit is obviously the exact same one that we just looked at with the Z outfit, but this one is his future counterpart in the timeline that the Z fighters in our time. In that timeline, Android 17 and 18, they go and wreak havoc. They fight Trunks and Future Gohan. All of the other Z fighters are taken out by 17 and 18, and they just kind of wreak havoc on the Earth, and they basically win. You know, you see all of this take place in the history of Trunks if you guys have ever seen this special. If you haven't and you're watching this video, what are you doing? Go watch that, like, right now. This version of Android 17, even though he's wearing the exact same fit as the 17 from our version in the current timeline of Dragon Ball Z, I hate this one more because he's responsible for killing my favorite character in Future Gohan. I said the exact same thing when I talked about Android 18, and the same thing applies for Future 17 as well, because it's his fault. He was half the reason why it happened. Evil Fighter 17. This is the third version of this fit that we see, and it's still somehow a different variation of Android 17. Not to be confused with current timeline Android 17, future Android 17. This is Hellfighter 17, and this version of Android 17 was created by Dr. Mew and Dr. Gero. It's in GT. It gets really complicated and weird, and they bring back another variation of Android 17, and he takes the current version of Android 17 that we see that goes through all of the events that happen in Z and beyond, and they combine and they create Super 17, and it's really, really weird, and it's odd, and nobody can beat me when I'm Super 17. I can't really rank this one. It's like the exact same thing. The only reason I gave F tier to Future 17 was because he's the future version that ends up killing Future Gohan, and so for Evil Fighter 17, I'm just gonna put this one in B tier because it's the same fit that we've already seen twice already, and it's just kind of, I don't really care about this version. So that's three different versions of Android 17, all wearing the exact same outfit, but they're all technically different. And then we have that same fit, but now battle damaged. Again, it's the exact same fit. I know some of you are like, man, what is even going on anymore? But you know, it's a variation of the fit. I just put this one up into S tier because it's battle damage, just whatever. The Dragon Ball Z blue trench coat. In the manga and the anime, Android 17 holds up his hand when Goku's trying to charge the Spirit Bomb, and he's asking for all the help from everybody on Earth, and I think he goes, like, I forgot how far he extends his reach with that. I think he goes universal or maybe galaxy-wide when he asks for help in the Majin Buu saga. But there's a shot of Android 17, even though we don't see him throughout any of the Buu arc. It's cool that there's a little nod that he still exists out there somewhere, and this is what he's wearing. To get a better look at the actual fit, this is what it looks like. He's wearing just a blue trench coat on top of his regular outfit, and he's wearing some white gloves now, which are kind of cool. He still has those ugly-ass leg warmers and those ugly-ass bowling shoes, but I like the fit enough to put it up into Z tier. I think it works really, really really well for him, and I love that he has another variation of an outfit, and we also get to see a little homage to him at the very end of the series, or what was going to be the end of the series in the Buu arc. And speaking of the series not ending, we have the Dragon Ball Super MIR Ranger outfit that he wears in Dragon Ball Super. He wears this in the Tournament of Power, and he's also wearing this throughout the majority of Super. I actually think this might be his only Dragon Ball Super look, if I'm not mistaken. There's been a lot of speculation on what MIR actually stands for. Some people say that MIR is meant to be like the Russian translation for peace, because that's how you say peace in Russian, apparently. It also means world in Russian, but also beyond that, I'm almost certain it's been confirmed that the island that Android 17 works on is called Monster Island. So it's still a little up in the air what it directly means, but I mean, that's a pretty damn good guess if I do say so myself. And I love this fit. I think this fit goes into Z tier for sure, and if I'm being real with you, I actually like his Super outfit more than his original, because he finally ditches those ugly ass leg warmers, and he's just wearing regular shoes now. Like, I know Dragon Ball came out in the 90s, and that was like maybe the height of where leg warmers were really a thing, but I feel like even back then, I wasn't born in the 90s and I wasn't around in the 90s because I'm not that old, but I feel like even then, it really wasn't that popular of a thing to do. I feel like it was kind of like brought up in media to be like, ooh, look at people wearing leg warmers, but I don't think people were wearing them out like he's wearing them, you know, in his full outfit attire. I don't think people were just casually sporting leg warmers with every fit. The Dragon Ball Super battle damaged version. Same thing as the battle damage from Z. It's still a good fit. You know, it being battle damaged, just bring it down just a little bit. So I'd put it into S tier. The Android 17 GT outfit. This one I do not love as much as I love the blue coat. I just really feel like the brown and the orange and the black and the yellow, and just there's too many colors happening. And I definitely think that the actual Dragon Ball look of him wearing a trench coat just works so much better, because he's got a blue top and he's got blue bottoms, but he's also got the color accents, so at least the two colors on his top and bottom match, and then there's like little accent colors in between, right? I still do like it, but I think I put it into A tier. I don't think it deserves to go into S or Z. For sure, I think it deserves at least A, but it's still not my favorite look. Super 17. Nobody can beat me when I'm Super 17. I think this look is fantastic. I think if they were going to bring back the androids in the GT saga, what they should have done was either A, they should have just had Super 17 just exist and just be created instead of having to absorb another version of Android 17 by making an additional version of Android 17. It just gets really weird and complicated for no reason by doing it that way, and I think no one would have really been opposed to them just introducing Super 17. Or if you have to make it to where Android 17 is evil and they make like some other version of him, or you don't even have to do that. You just have both Android 18 and 17, like, I don't know, have some chip inside their android head get reactivated to go under Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew. You know, it's like hacking, you know, someone's Neuralink in the year 2035 when that comes around. And then you get like Super 17, or I don't know, something like that. I think the writing in GT is always super clunky. Like, I've talked about that a billion times. I don't think that's like a new opinion anybody has. I think everybody kind of knows that. But I really like the designs in GT, like with Super 17, because this is a cool design. Like, I like the boots. I like that he still has the scarf. I like that he has the, you know, the absorbing hands. I love that the hair is longer. Like, everything about this is like an upgraded version of the original 17 that we got, but it's just how they got there that sucks. As far as where I'd rank Super 17 though, I would put him up into Z tier, and like one of the highest Z tiers I could give on this list. I think it's the best part about Super 17 is his design. His writing is very forgettable, and like everything's forgettable about Super 17 except for like the way he looked. I still do like the Dragon Ball Super fit a little bit more. I think exploring the protagonist androids with like 17 and 18 and really seeing how they could be developed further, especially with the stuff that we see in Dragon Ball Superhero, could be really, really cool. Like, seeing them get upgrades maybe at some point in the future in Super could be really cool, and maybe there's like some variation of 17 that turns into Super 17 and it's actually canonized. I would love that. I feel like there's still a lot to explore when it comes to the androids, and I think we kind of saw that with Dragon Ball Superhero, and I think there was kind of a failed opportunity to not do anything with them, given that their creator company was like the biggest part of that movie with recreating Cell Max, like I said before. Super 17, 18 absorbed. So I want to apologize real quick on my Android 18 tier list. When I was ranking all of the stuff with Android 18, I did not know that this version of Super 17 with Android 18 absorbed was actually from Heroes. I did not know it was a real thing. I straight up thought it was fan art, because I tried looking for footage of this and I could not find it. But as you can see, there's a version of Super 17 that absorbs Android Android 18, and they have basically the same Super 17 fit with just golden hair to represent Android 18. I would love if something like this actually did happen. It would be really, really cool to actually make these two characters ultra relevant. Not at all saying that Android 17 is not relevant. He already won the Tournament of Power. He's literally the GOAT, but you know what I mean. Like in a scenario where there's like a real imminent threat to the Earth or to the universe, they could actually be viable fighters outside of the Tournament of Power. The Super 17 with Android 18 absorbed though, I really like this, and I really, really want to see a version of this happen at some point. I think it would be really, really cool to experiment with it. There are plenty of things I want to see happen with Dragon Ball as, you know, it continues developing, but this is just one of the long lists that I have developed for that. I actually do think I'll change my ranking on this though. I think Super 17's design with the black hair is a little bit better than the Super 17 with Android 18 absorbed. I would put this one down into S. It's still really cool to look at, but I think it's not quite in that same level of like iconic. It is something I'd like to see, but I do think Super 17's design is just perfect the way it is. Like literally no changes. And if there is going to be a fusion between Android 17 and 18, I would like there to be a little bit more representation of both characters in it, rather than it being Super 17 with golden hair. You know, it kind of looks like he just went Super Saiyan. It doesn't really show Android 18 all that much. The Masked Android, aka Super 17 with the mask on. I'll be real, whenever I see the masked versions of characters from Dragon Ball Heroes, the first thing that I always think of, and you guys have probably heard me say this if you've seen any of the other tier list videos, is that this looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh! It does not look like it belongs in Dragon Ball, and the mask kind of feels forced and like tacked on, which is kind of a lot of Heroes, if I'm being honest with you. A lot of Heroes is just tacking extra stuff onto characters and just not really caring. Sometimes it looks cool, and other times it just kind of looks janky. This is one of those cases where I still like it, but I think the mask kind of takes away from what makes Super 17 cool, in that it's an enhanced version of 17, and adding a mask and blocking his face off just kind of makes him look like another generic villain. With that being said, I think I'd put him into A tier. I don't really love the mask, and it takes away from what makes Super 17. And the final three that we have are from Dragon Ball Fusions. We have 16-17, 17-18, and Cell 17. This is a little bit of a better look at him right here. He's got like spiky-ish hair, which I kind of dig, while also keeping the bangs. The little scarf that Android 17 usually has is now around his head. He got rid of the leg warmers. Everything about this is pretty sick. I like this one a lot, and I kind of think it's cool that Dragon Ball Fusions decided to include something related to Android 16, because he really doesn't get a whole lot of love in the video games. He kind of has one form, and I mean, he's really not around that often in Dragon Ball Z anyway, but you know, it's kind of cool to see that there was a little bit of love given to him for how brief of a time he appears in the show. I would put this version of Android 16-17 up into S tier. I really, really like the hair. I like that the scarf stays around. I like that they got rid of the leg warmers, and I also like that they kept Android 16's armor. It just looks cool overall, and I like it. And then we have Fusions 17 and 18. This is basically a less interesting version of Super 17, and it's also not as cool as Super 17 with Android 18 absorbed with like the golden hair. It kind of just looks like a watered down version of both of the things that I think are cool outside of this, and I would probably say this is a solid like C tier. It sucks as a fusion. I don't really love the way this looks, and it could be 100% better given the other versions of this that we already see anyway. Cell 17. This is actually so cursed. I'm gonna be real with you. It's Super 17 and Cell combined into one guy. I don't love it at all. I gotta be real. I think most of Cell's fusions with any other character are really, really cursed, unless it's Celluza, where Frieza and Cell are combined into one thing. That looks pretty cool. But Cell combining with like anybody else, like Majin Buu or any of the other forms that we've seen, those are always really, really weird and really, really cursed. I would probably put this one into F tier, down there with Future 17, who killed my absolute GOAT. And with that, that is every single Android 17 fit ranked from Z tier all the way down to F tier. Let me know if you think my ratings are fair. Let me know if you would change anything. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, thanks for watching till the end of the video. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of this month's patrons. I really do appreciate your continued support. If you're looking for more content from me, you can always check out our second channel, Retrora Live. Hope to see you over there, and I'll see you next time.